She stood before me without armor, without walls, without fear, and in that moment I learned what love really means. The gallery was too crowded, and he was thinking about leaving. He had only come because his best friend wouldn't stop texting him about it. "You need to get out of that apartment," the messages said. "You're turning into a hermit." So there he was, standing in a corner with a glass of cheap wine, pretending to look at photographs he didn't really see. 8 months. That's how long it had been since his wife moved out. 8 months of sleeping on one side of the bed, of cooking dinner for one, of coming home to silence. His friends meant well, but they didn't understand. They kept saying he needed to move on, to get back out there, as if healing was something you could schedule like a dentist appointment. He was about to slip out when he heard someone laugh. Not a polite gallery laugh, but a real one, the kind that makes other people smile even when they don't know what's funny. He found himself looking for the source. She was standing in front of a large photograph, her head tilted to one side. She had dark hair pulled back in a messy way that looked accidental but probably wasn't. She was wearing a simple black dress and boots, and she was talking to an older woman who seemed delighted by whatever she was saying. He didn't mean to stare, but something about her made him pause. Maybe it was the way she moved her hands when she talked, or the way she really looked at the art instead of just glancing and moving on. She seemed present in a way most people at these things weren't. Their eyes met across the room. She smiled, just a small one, and went back to her conversation. He felt his face get warm and looked away. This was stupid. He wasn't ready for this. He should just go home. But he didn't. Instead, he found himself walking slowly around the gallery, somehow always ending up a few feet away from where she was standing. He told himself he was just looking at the photographs, but he was really listening to her voice. She was talking about light and shadow, about how the photographer captured loneliness in a way that felt beautiful instead of sad. "What do you think?" she asked suddenly, and he realized she was talking to him. "Sorry," he said. "This one." She pointed at a photograph of an empty chair by a window. "Does it make you sad or peaceful?" He looked at it properly for the first time. "Both, I think," he said. "Is that allowed?" She smiled again, bigger this time. "I think that's the only honest answer." They started talking, and it felt surprisingly easy. She told him she was a photographer, though not the one whose work was on display. He told her he designed buildings, though mostly boring office spaces these days. She asked if he liked his work. He said he used to. "That's a sad answer," she said. "Yeah, well, sad seems to be my thing lately." He didn't know why he said it. He hadn't meant to. But instead of getting awkward the way conversations usually did when he accidentally mentioned his separation, she just nodded. "I get that," she said. "I've been living in sad for a while too." They talked for another hour. The gallery started emptying out, but neither of them seemed to notice. She told him about her recent breakup, 3 years with someone who she realized she never really knew. He told her about his divorce, about how you can live with someone for years and still be strangers. "It's strange, isn't it?" she said. "How lonely you can be with another person right next to you." "Yeah," he said. "That's exactly it." When the gallery closed, they stood outside on the sidewalk, the autumn air cold enough to see their breath. He thought about asking for her number but felt terrified. What would he even do with it? He was a mess. She was probably just being nice. "There's a coffee place around the corner," she said. "Want to keep talking?" They sat in the cafe until it closed, then walked slowly through the neighborhood, still talking. She told him about losing herself in her last relationship, about trying to be the person her partner wanted instead of who she was. He told her about the moment he realized his marriage was over, sitting at the dinner table, both of them on their phones. Nothing left to say. "Do you think we can do it differently next time?" she asked. "Or do all relationships just end up in the same place?" "I don't know," he said. "Maybe if we went in differently, more honest from the start." She stopped walking and looked at him. "What if we tried that?" "Tried what?" "Being honest. Really honest. No games, no pretending, no trying to be what we think the other person wants." He felt his heart speed up. "Are you asking me out?" "Maybe, but not in the normal way. I'm asking if you want to try something different. Something real." He thought about it. Every part of him wanted to say no, to protect himself, to avoid the possibility of being hurt again. But another part of him, a part he thought had died, felt curious. Hopeful even. "Okay," he said. But I should warn you, I'm kind of a disaster right now. Me too, she said. Maybe that's the point. They exchanged numbers. Before they parted ways, she touched his arm. Thank you for tonight, she said. For being real with me. Thank you, he said. For the same thing. He walked home through the empty streets, his hands in his pockets, his breath making clouds in the cold air. For the first time in months, he felt something other than numb. He felt scared, yes, but also alive. When he got home, his apartment didn't feel quite as empty. She texted him the next morning. Coffee, it said. No games, no waiting 3 days, no pretending to be busy. Just a simple question. Yes, he replied. And then, because they had promised to be honest, I'm nervous. Me too, she wrote back. Let's be nervous together. They met at a small place near the park. She was already there when he arrived, sitting by the window with 2 cups in front of her. I got you a black coffee, she said. But I realized I don't actually know if that's what you drink. I was making assumptions, he smiled. Black coffee is perfect. They talked for 3 hours. About their childhoods, their dreams, their fears. She told him about her parents' divorce and how it made her afraid of commitment. He told her about growing up with a father who never showed emotion and how he learned to do the same. They talked about therapy, about mistakes they'd made, about who they wanted to become. This is different, he said. I feel like I'm meeting the real you, not the version people usually show on dates. That's because this isn't really a date, she said. It's 2 people trying to figure out if they can be brave together. Can we? He asked. I don't know yet, she said. But I want to find out. When they left the cafe, the sun was setting. She took his hand as they walked, and it felt like the most natural thing in the world. They were both broken, both scared, both trying to learn how to be whole again. But maybe, he thought, that was the best place to start. The next 6 weeks passed in a blur of late-night conversations and early morning texts. They saw each other 3, sometimes 4 times a week. Sometimes they went out, to museums, to parks, to quiet restaurants where they could talk for hours. Other times they just sat in one of their apartments, drinking tea and sharing stories they'd never told anyone else. He learned that she cried during commercials and loved terrible reality TV shows. She learned that he sang in the shower badly, and that he still slept on one side of the bed out of habit. They shared their embarrassing moments, their regrets, the things they were ashamed of. Every conversation felt like peeling back another layer. One evening they were in her studio apartment. It was small but full of light, with photographs covering one wall and plants on every surface. She was showing him her work, the projects she'd abandoned halfway through, the ones she was proud of, the ones that scared her because they felt too personal. This one, he said, pointing to a self-portrait where her face was half in shadow. This is incredible. That was from my bad year, she said, right after the breakup. I almost deleted it. I'm glad you didn't. She looked at him for a long moment. Can I ask you something? Anything. What was the exact moment you knew your marriage was over? He sat down on her couch, surprised by the question but not uncomfortable. This was what they did, asked the hard things, the things that mattered. We were having dinner, he said, a normal Tuesday. And I realized I'd forgotten what her voice sounded like when she was excited about something. We'd been together for 7 years, and I couldn't remember the last time either of us was excited. We were just existing next to each other. She sat beside him. I'm sorry. Don't be. It wasn't her fault or mine. We just stopped trying, stopped being curious about each other. He paused. What about you? When did you know? When I looked in the mirror one day and didn't recognize myself, she said. I'd changed everything to fit into his life. My clothes, my friends, even my photography. I was shooting what I thought would impress him instead of what I loved. I realized I'd disappeared. You're not disappeared now, he said. No, I'm finding my way back. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, and then he asked, Are you scared? Of this, I mean us. Terrified, she said. You, every day. But I'm also, I don't know. Hopeful? Yeah, me too. Their first kiss happened 2 weeks later, and it was nothing like either of them expected. They were walking through the park after a rainstorm, trying to avoid puddles. The sky was that perfect shade of gray, and everything smelled like wet earth. They'd been laughing about something stupid, and then suddenly they weren't laughing anymore. They stopped walking at the same moment. She looked up at him, her hair damp from the mist, and he knew this was it. He was terrified, but he kissed her anyway. It was gentle and uncertain and perfect. When they pulled apart, she was smiling. "Took you long enough," she said. "I wanted to be sure." "Are you?" "Getting there." After that, things shifted. Not in a bad way, but definitely in a more real way. They started talking about what they wanted, what they were ready for, what still scared them. She told him she wasn't ready for physical intimacy yet, that she needed more time to trust, to feel safe. "I'm not trying to be difficult," she said. "I just need to go slow." "That's not difficult," he said. "That's honest. And that's what we promised each other, right?" She looked relieved. Right. They created their own pace. Some nights he'd stay over, and they'd just sleep next to each other, talking until they fell asleep. Other nights they'd kiss until they both felt dizzy, but nothing more. They were learning each other's boundaries, their comfort zones, their tender spots. He met her younger sister one afternoon. They went for lunch, and her sister spent the entire time studying him like he was a puzzle to solve. "You seem normal," she finally said. "Thanks, I think." "No, I mean it." The last guy was all charm and no substance. "You seem like you actually care about her." "I do," he said simply. After her sister left, she was quiet. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Nothing. It's just strange having people see us together. It makes it more real." "Is that bad?" "No, just scary. Real things can hurt you. They can also heal you," he said. "Is that what we're doing? Healing each other?" "Maybe we're healing ourselves together." She squeezed his hand. "I like that better." They had their first real disagreement a few weeks later. It was stupid. About plans they'd made that he forgot because work got crazy. She got upset not because of the canceled plans, but because he didn't text to let her know. "I just need communication," she said. "That's what failed in my last relationship." We stopped talking. "You're right. I'm sorry. I should have called." "That's it? No defending yourself?" "What's to defend? You told me what you need. I didn't do it." "I'll do better." She looked surprised. "My ex would have made this a whole thing about how I was being needy." "You're not being needy. You're being clear." "There's a difference." She was quiet for a moment, and then she hugged him tight. "Thank you for hearing me. Always." One night in early December, she invited him over for dinner. They cooked together, moving around her small kitchen like they'd done it 100 times before. They talked about their days, their plans for the holidays, the way the winter light made everything look different. After dinner, they sat on her couch with glasses of wine. She was quiet more than usual. He could tell something was on her mind. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. She turned to look at him. "I'm thinking that I'm tired. We can call it early if you want. No, not that kind of tired. I'm tired of being scared. Tired of protecting myself from something that might not even happen. Tired of half living because I'm afraid of being hurt." He set down his wine glass. "What are you saying?" She took a deep breath. "I'm saying I want to be brave with you. I want to stop hiding behind my fear and just be completely." He felt his heart racing. "Are you sure?" "No," she said honestly. "But I don't think we're ever really sure about anything, are we? We just have to choose to take the leap." She stood up slowly, looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. It was vulnerable and determined all at once. "I want to show you something," she said quietly. "I want to show you all of me. No walls, no protection, just me, completely honest and open." The room felt different suddenly, quieter. The lamp in the corner cast soft shadows across the walls, and through the window he could see the lights of the city blinking in the dark. His heart was pounding so hard he wondered if she could hear it. She stood in front of him, and there was something in her eyes he hadn't seen before. Not nervousness exactly, but determination mixed with vulnerability. She was about to do something that terrified her, and she was choosing to do it anyway. "I've been thinking about what it means to be truly seen," she said softly. "My whole life I've been hiding parts of myself. In my last relationship, I hid my needs, my opinions, my real self. I thought if I could just be what he wanted, everything would work. But I lost myself completely." He started to speak, but she held up her hand gently. "Let me finish, please." She took a deep breath. "With you, I've been more honest than I've ever been with anyone. We've shared our fears, our past mistakes, our wounds, but there's still this wall I have up. This last piece of protection, and I'm tired of it." "You don't have to," he began. "I know I don't have to. That's what makes this a choice. I want to choose vulnerability. I want to choose trust. I want to show you that I'm all in. even though it scares me." She reached for the hem of her dress and he suddenly understood what she was about to do. His breath caught in his throat. "Wait," he said gently. "Are you sure about this?" "I'm not sure about anything," she said honestly. "But I'm sure that I want to try. I'm sure that I trust you. I'm sure that this matters to me." She pulled her dress over her head in one smooth motion. Then, piece by piece, she removed everything else. She wasn't performing or trying to be seductive. She was simply revealing herself completely and honestly. Her body carried its own stories. A scar on her knee from a childhood accident. A small tattoo on her rib she'd gotten after her breakup. The imperfections she'd spent years being self-conscious about. She stood there for a moment, allowing herself to be seen. Really seen. Not as an object or a fantasy, but as a person choosing radical honesty. Her eyes never left his face. Then she walked across the room toward him. Not quickly, not slowly, just steady and sure. When she reached the couch, she carefully climbed onto his lap, her knees on either side of him. She settled there, close enough that he could feel her breathing, and then she smiled. It wasn't a shy smile or a seductive smile. It was the smile of someone who had just done the bravest thing she could imagine. It was the smile of someone choosing love over fear, connection over safety, truth over comfort. He sat completely still, his hands hovering uncertainly. He was overwhelmed by what this moment meant. She wasn't offering her body, she was offering her trust, her entire self, every vulnerable part she'd spent years protecting. "Hi," she whispered. "Hi," he said back, his voice rough with emotion. "I'm terrified right now," she said. "I know. Me too. But I'm also free. For the first time in forever, I feel completely free." His hands finally settled on her waist, gentle and respectful. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For trusting me. For choosing this. For being so incredibly brave." She touched his face, tracing the line of his jaw. "It's not just about being brave. It's about deciding that you're worth the risk. That we're worth the risk." They stayed like that for a long time, just looking at each other. There was no rush, no pressure. This wasn't about moving forward to anything else. This was the moment itself, complete and whole. Two people choosing to be fully present with each other. "I see you," he said quietly, "not just your body. I see your courage, your heart, your choice to be here like this with me." Tears started sliding down her cheeks, but she was still smiling. "That's all I wanted. To be seen, really seen. Not the version of me that's safe or easy, but all of me. Even the scared parts." He pulled her closer, wrapping his arms around her. She rested her head on his shoulder, and he could feel her heart beating against his chest. They fit together perfectly, two broken people learning how to be whole. "What happens now?" she asked after a while. "I don't know." "What do you want to happen?" "I want to stay right here for a while. I want to remember how this feels. I want to not rush to the next thing." "Okay," he said simply. "Then that's what we'll do." They sat together in the quiet of her apartment, holding each other. The city lights flickered outside. A car passed on the street below. Normal life continued around them, but in this moment they existed in their own small world. Eventually she lifted her head to look at him again. "I need you to understand something," she said. "This isn't just about tonight. This is me telling you that I'm all in, that I'm choosing us even though I'm scared, even though I don't know how this ends." "I'm all in too," he said. "I've been falling for you since that night at the gallery. Maybe even that first moment when I heard you laugh. Really? Really, you make me want to be brave too. You make me want to try again even after everything." She kissed him then, soft and deep. It was different from their other kisses, more open, more trusting. When she pulled back, her eyes were shining. "Can we just stay like this tonight?" she asked. "No expectations, no next steps. Just this." "Yes," he said. "Absolutely yes." She reached for a blanket on the back of the couch and wrapped it around them both. They sat there together, wrapped in warmth and trust and the quiet understanding that they'd just shared something extraordinary. Not because of the physical vulnerability, but because of what it represented. The choice to be known, the courage to be seen, the risk of opening your heart completely to another person. He held her through the night, and she felt safer than she had in years. Not because he was protecting her from the world, but because she'd finally dropped her armor and survived it. She'd been completely vulnerable, and instead of falling apart, she felt stronger, more herself than ever before. As the night deepened and they eventually moved to her bed still wrapped together, she whispered, "Thank you for receiving this gift the way it was meant." "Thank you for giving it," he whispered back. They fell asleep holding each other, two people who had found something rare. Not perfection, not a guarantee of forever, but honest connection between two souls brave enough to try. Morning came through the window soft and gray. He woke up first and for a moment he just watched her sleep. Her hair was messy across the pillow, one hand curled under her cheek. She looked peaceful, younger somehow without the weight she carried when she was awake. He thought about the night before, about what it meant. Not just the moment itself, but everything that led to it. The choice she made to be completely vulnerable. The trust she placed in him. The gift of being allowed into her most guarded spaces. She stirred and opened her eyes, and for just a second, he saw panic flash across her face. The morning after vulnerability. The moment when you remember what you revealed and wonder if you made a mistake. "Hey," he said softly. "You okay?" She was quiet for a moment, really thinking about the question. "I don't know. Ask me in 5 minutes," he smiled. Fair. They lay there in the early morning light, not quite touching. He could feel her thinking, working through her feelings. He didn't rush her. This was part of it too, the aftermath, the integration of what happened. "I'm okay," she finally said. "Actually, I'm more than okay. I'm proud of myself." "You should be." "That took incredible courage. Do you think I'm crazy?" she asked. "For doing it that way?" "No, I think you're the bravest person I've ever met." She rolled onto her side to face him. "It wasn't about the physical thing. You know that, right? It was about showing you that I'm choosing this. Choosing us. Choosing to be fully present instead of half hidden." "I know, and I'm choosing the same thing." They got up and made breakfast together, and there was an ease between them that felt new. Something had shifted. Not just intimacy, but understanding. They'd crossed a threshold together and there was no going back. Not because they couldn't, but because neither of them wanted to. Over the next few weeks, they learned how to navigate this new depth. It wasn't always easy. Sometimes the vulnerability felt like too much and they'd both retreat a little, scared by how exposed they felt. But they kept talking through it, kept choosing honesty over comfort. He introduced her to his daughter one Saturday afternoon. His daughter was 16 and skeptical, having watched her parents' marriage fall apart. She looked at this new woman in her father's life with sharp, assessing eyes. "Dad's been happier lately," she said bluntly over coffee. "Is that because of you?" She didn't flinch from the question. "Maybe partly, but I think it's more that he's been doing the work to be happier. I'm just lucky enough to be around for it." His daughter seemed to appreciate the honest answer. They didn't become best friends that day, but there was a mutual respect. When they left, his daughter hugged him and whispered, "She's different from Mom, that's good." But not everything was smooth. 3 weeks after that night, his ex-wife called. He was at work when he saw her name on his phone and his stomach dropped. They hadn't spoken in 2 months. "This couldn't be good." "I made a mistake," his ex-wife said when he answered. "Leaving was a mistake. I want to try again. I want to fix us." He sat down heavily in his office chair. "Where is this coming from?" "I've been thinking. We had 7 years together. That means something. We can't just throw it away because things got hard. We didn't throw it away because things got hard. We grew apart. We stopped being partners, but we could find our way back. I know we could. If we both really tried." He felt a wave of emotion. Not love. He'd stopped loving her romantically a long time ago. But nostalgia, grief for what they'd had and lost. And underneath it all, fear. Fear that maybe she was right. Fear that he was making a mistake with someone new. Fear that he was going to get hurt again. "I need to think," he said. "There's someone else, isn't there?" His ex-wife asked. He paused. "Yes. Is it serious?" "I think it might be." After the call ended, he sat in his office for an hour, staring at nothing. His mind was racing. What if his ex-wife was right? What if he was just running from his problems instead of fixing them? What if this new relationship was just a rebound that would fall apart in 6 months? That evening, he went to her apartment. She knew immediately that something was wrong. "What happened?" she asked. He told her everything. The phone call. The offer to try again. His confusion. She listened without interrupting, her face carefully neutral. "What are you going to do?" she asked when he finished. "I don't know. What do you think I should do?" She was quiet for a long moment. I think you need to be honest with yourself about what you want. Not what's safe or familiar or easy, what you actually want. What if I make the wrong choice? Then you make the wrong choice. But at least it'll be your choice, not something you stumbled into because you were too scared to decide. He looked at her. Really looked at her. She was scared. He could see it in the way she held herself, the slight trembling in her hands. She thought he might leave. But even scared, she was telling him to choose honestly. Not to choose her because it would make her feel better, but to choose what was true for him. I don't want to go back, he said. That's not even a question. But I'm terrified of moving forward. Why? Because this is real. You and me, this is real in a way nothing has been in years. And if I lose it... He couldn't finish the sentence. She moved closer to him. You might lose it. That's always a possibility. I might lose it too. But we can't build something real if we're too scared to risk it. Even knowing you might get hurt again. Especially then. Because the alternative is staying safe and alone forever. And I don't want that anymore. I want messy and real and scary. I want you. He pulled her into his arms. I want you too. I'm sorry I got scared. Don't be sorry for being human. Just be honest about it. He called his ex-wife the next day and told her no. It wasn't an easy conversation. She was hurt and angry, and he understood that. But he was finally clear about what he wanted. Not the safety of the familiar, but the risk of something new and true. That night, he and she talked for hours about what had happened. About his fear. Her fear. How they'd both almost lost each other because of old wounds and old patterns. I almost pulled away, she admitted. When you told me about your ex-wife, part of me wanted to just end things before I got hurt. Why didn't you? Because that's what the old me would have done. And I'm trying to be different now. I'm trying to choose courage instead of safety. Me too, he said. They fell asleep holding hands, two people still learning how to be brave together. Winter turned to spring slowly, the way it does in cities where the seasons take their time. The snow melted into dirty slush, then disappeared entirely. Trees that had been bare for months started showing tiny green buds. The days got longer, the light softer. Everything felt like it was waking up, including them. They'd been together for 6 months now, and it felt both longer and shorter than that. Longer because they'd shared so much, learned each other so deeply. Shorter because every day still felt new, still felt like discovery. She'd been working on a photography exhibition, her first solo show since the breakup. At first, she'd been terrified to put her work out there. What if people hate it? She'd asked him one night. What if they think it's too personal or too weird? Then they think that, he'd said. But at least it'll be real. At least it'll be yours. The exhibition was opening on a Friday in early May. He'd watched her prepare for weeks, seen her agonize over which pieces to include, which to leave out. She was exposing her heart through these photographs, and it scared her the same way that night in December had scared her. But she was doing it anyway. The gallery was crowded when he arrived. He spotted her across the room talking to a group of people. She looked beautiful in a simple gray dress, her hair down, her eyes bright with nervous energy. When she saw him, her face lit up, and she excused herself to come over. You came, she said. Of course I came. Wouldn't miss this. I'm terrified, I know. But look around. People are really engaging with your work. They walked through the exhibition together. She'd titled it, Learning to be Seen. There were portraits of strangers she'd met over the past year, each one capturing a moment of vulnerability or honesty. There were landscapes that felt lonely and beautiful at the same time. There were abstract pieces that played with light and shadow, and then he saw it. A self-portrait he hadn't seen before. It was from that night in December. He recognized the lamp in the corner, the window behind her. But it wasn't explicit or revealing. Instead, it showed her from behind, looking over her shoulder at the camera. Her expression was the one he remembered. That smile, the one that said she was choosing courage over fear, connection over safety. Underneath the photo was a simple title, The Moment I Chose. He stared at it for a long time. She came to stand beside him. Are you okay with this being here? She asked quietly. I wanted to ask you first, but I also needed to do it for myself. To claim this moment as part of my story. I'm more than okay with it, he said. It's beautiful. And it's true. That's all I wanted it to be. True. Later that evening, after most of the crowd had left, the gallery owner asked him to say a few words. He wasn't expecting it and felt panic rise in his chest. But then he looked at her and she nodded encouragingly, and he found himself walking to the front of the room. "I'm not an art critic," he began. "I design buildings, which is pretty different from photography. But I know something about spaces, about creating environments where people can be themselves." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "A few months ago, someone taught me that the same principle applies to relationships. We have to create spaces where people feel safe enough to be vulnerable, safe enough to be seen, safe enough to stop pretending and just exist." His eyes found hers in the crowd. "This exhibition is about that kind of space, about what it looks like when someone stops hiding, when someone chooses to be fully present even though it's scary, even though they might get hurt." He gestured to the photographs around them. "Every single one of these images is an act of courage, not just for the people in them, but for the person who created them. Because to capture vulnerability in others, you have to first embrace it in yourself." There was more he wanted to say, but his voice was getting thick with emotion. "Anyway, I'm incredibly proud to know the artist, and I'm grateful she's taught me so much about what it means to be brave." People applauded, and he quickly stepped away, his face hot. She found him a few minutes later in a quiet corner. "That was perfect," she said. "I didn't plan any of it. I know. That's what made it perfect." They left the gallery together as the sun was setting, walking through streets that smelled like spring. His hand found hers automatically now, the gesture as natural as breathing. "I'm scared," she said suddenly. "Of what?" "Of how much this matters, of how much you matter. 6 months ago, I was so broken, and now I'm happy, and it's terrifying because happiness can be taken away." He stopped walking and turned to face her. "Listen to me. I'm scared too. Every single day I'm scared. Because you're right, this could fall apart. We could mess it up. One of us could change or leave or hurt the other." "That's not helping," she said, but she was almost smiling. "But here's the thing. I'm choosing you anyway. Every morning I wake up and I'm scared, and every morning I choose you anyway. Because this is worth the risk." She was crying now, but still smiling. "When did you get so wise?" "I learned from this photographer I know. She taught me about vulnerability and courage and choosing truth over comfort. She sounds pretty great. She really is." They stood there on the sidewalk, people flowing around them, the city alive with evening energy. Two people who had been broken and were learning to be whole. Two people who had been scared and were learning to be brave. Two people who had found each other at exactly the right time, when they were finally ready to be honest about who they were. "Come on," she said, tugging his hand. "Let's go home. Your place or mine? Does it matter anymore?" He